Hi everyone, welcome. Um, I hope you're having a fantastic day. And yeah, welcome to this amazing session on how to build Angular apps for performance optimization. We have the wonderful speaker Sarah here. Sarah is passionate about web and cloud technologies and loves talking about Angular. She's a tech enthusiast with experience in software engineering and presently works at a financial service institution building innovative payment solutions. As part of her commitment in supporting more women in tech and STEM, she co leads the LEGO Women in Machine Learning and Data Science, a community whose mission is to support and promote women and gender minorities who are practicing, studying, or are interested in the field of machine learning and data science. So, over to you, Miss Sarah.
Hi. Thank you for that intro. Sincerely appreciate. Um, Good afternoon, my time. I'm joining live from Lagos, Nigeria. I'm so excited to be part of this year's Women Who Code um, Connect um, global event. I am looking forward to learning from everyone and networking with everyone. So as the at, as earlier introduced, I'm Sarah. So basically, my session will be on how to leverage on the various concepts, that Angular provides under the hood for performance optimization. But then, first off, I want to know if there are Angular developers in the audience. Please say hi if you're familiar with Angular or if you used Angular before. Um, what framework do you use at your place of work, or even if you just know about just a little, maybe foundational knowledge about the framework? Can you just drop a message on the chat? And moving forward, so basically, many developers are unaware um, of the significant performance benefits that Angular, which is the JavaScript framework for building web applications, what it offers under the hood, right? So as a web application grows, right, more complex, as it keeps getting more complex, it's actually crucial for us as developers to implement best practices to enhance its performance. So this session aims to explore the different various performance optimization techniques, such as the AoT compilation, on push change detection strategy, using pure pipes, or subscribing from observables, lazy loading, TrackBy Option, using the TrackBy Option for follow, avoiding computation in template files, and then leveraging on web workers. So by leveraging on the various techniques that I just listed, you can create more efficient and high performing um, web applications using Angular. Yes, so let's get into it. So I've already been introduced. I work as a software engineer in Premium Trust Bank. I also co-lead WiMLDS. My social media handles are on the screen. You can reach out to me for questions um, regarding the subject topic or any other challenges. I'm open to um, hearing from everyone. So these are the concepts that we'll be looking at and then learning as we go on this session. So first off is the AOT compilation. What is AOT compilation and how does it work, right? So AOT is actually an acronym. It means ahead of time compilation. So what this means is your application is actually compiled in the browser at run. Sorry, the application is compiled ahead of time. So there are actually two compilation mechanism or approaches in Angular. You have the JIT, you have the AOT. The JIT is actually just in time. The just in time compiles your application in the browser at runtime, right? And then the AOT, which is actually better off to use, compiles your application at build time. So earlier versions from Angular version 9 upwards, by default, your compilation configuration is set to AOT. But then most of us, or a few of us, or newbies wouldn't know, okay, why do I have AOT in my Angular.json configuration file? It's actually because There are lots of benefits that the AOT compilation brings for your Angular application. So when you run the ng build, right, or the ng serve, right, that's the CLI command. The type of compilation depends on the value of the AOT property in your build configuration. Basically, what you specify in your Angular.json, right? So there are actually three phases that your the AOT compilation compiles. You have the code analysis phase, the code generation phase, and then the template type checking phase. So these are the phases that your application is compiled through to give it a better performance optimization for your application as opposed to using the JIT. So for the code analysis phase, what happens here is what happens here is the what they call it, TypeScript compiler and AOT collector, right, would sort of create a representation of the source code. So this collector does not attempt to interpret the metadata it collects in this phase. It will just represent the metadata as best as it can, and then records errors when it detects metadata syntax violation. So this phase just analyzes your code to detect metadata syntax violation, basically. Then the next phase it moves on to is the code generation phase, where the compiler's static reflector would interpret the metadata collected in the code analysis phase, right? And then it will perform additional validation of the metadata and then throw an error if it detects a metadata restriction violation, and then move on to the template type checking. The template type checking is actually optional. You can decide to include that in your code, or you can ignore it. But what happens in this template type checking phase is the Angular template compiler would use the TypeScript compiler to validate the binding expression in the template. So you can actually enable this phase explicitly by setting the full template type checking configuration option. Right? So um, in essence, when you use the ahead of time compilation, you can control how your application is compiled by specifying the template compiler options in the TypeScript configuration file. So how does the AOT works? Um, so how does the ahead of time compilation works? So Angular AOT, how it works is the compiler would extract metadata to interpret the part of the application that Angular is supposed to manage. Right. So you can actually specify the metadata explicitly in the decorators, either using the at components or at input as an example that is shown on your screen. And then implicitly in the constructor declaration of the decorated class, the metadata will tell Angular how to construct instances of your application classes and then interact with them at runtime. So in the example you have on your screen, the add components decorator metadata objects and the class constructor will tell Angular how to create and display an instance of the example components you have on your screen. So what are the benefits of actually using the AOT compiler as opposed to using the GIT? So its benefit is faster rendering. Your application will be rendered faster. With AOT, the browser would download a precompiled version of the application. Right? The browser loads executable code so that it can render the application immediately without waiting to compile the application first. And so it offers the benefits of faster rendering, and then you have fewer asynchronous requests also. And then you also have like smaller Angular framework download size, and then there's also benefit of detecting template errors earlier, knowing that the AOT compilation mechanism uses three phases, which we have looked at earlier, and then it offers better security. Right? So there's enhanced security using the AOT compilation. So it's better to use the AOT compilation as opposed to use the JIT compilation. So moving on, we have the OnPush Change Detection Strategy. So this is one of another technique of another technique for performance optimization in Angular. So there are actually two change detection strategy in Angular, right? So we have the default strategy and we have the on-push chain detection strategy. Is um, better off to use the onpush. The onpush change detection strategy is a change detection mechanism in Angular that optimizes the performance of the application. How it does this is it will reduce the number of times Angular checks for change in the component. And then by default though, Angular uses the default change detection strategy to check for changes in the components and its children. So every time an event is triggered, either maybe when you click, you do a click, or a user does a click, a mouse over, or other events, right? Or a request is made, maybe an HTTP request or a timer, right? So this can lead to performance issues in large applications with complex components, right? So the on-push change detection strategy, on the other hand, will only check for changes in the components when the component's input properties are updated, or when an event is fired from the component. And so this means that Angular doesn't check for changes in the component if none of its input properties have changed, which can significantly improve the performance of the application. So to use the on-push change detection strategy in Angular, you need to set the change detection property. You need to change this change detection property of the component to change detection strategy dot on push, for example, as seen on the screen. So I wouldn't want to go into how it works, so that we can cover other concepts basically. But there are some scenarios where the on push change detection strategy wouldn't work. But first, let's look at the benefits of using the why we should use the on push as opposed to using the default strategy. It Using the on-push change detection strategy will reduce change detection time, right? It will also improve performance of the application, right? And it's more efficient as opposed to using the default strategy, because it can reduce battery consumption on mobile devices. So there are some scenarios or use cases where the on-push won't work, right? Or when the on-push strategy doesn't trigger change detection. When it doesn't trigger change detection, if we use an asynchronous function like maybe set interval, set timeout, promise resolve and reject, um, RxJS subscriptions. In such use cases, the on-push change detection strategy wouldn't work. So moving on, we have so these are examples of how you can specify or configure which of the change detection strategy to use, but in this case, using the on-push change detection strategy. So moving on, we have next concept is using pure pipes, right? So um, in Angular, pipe is a pure pipe is only called when Angular detects a change in the value or the parameters that are passed to it. Just as we have two types of change detection strategy in Angular, we also have two types of pipes. Your pipes could be pure, your pipes could be impure. It's better off to use the pure pipes because um, basically when Angular detects a change, right, or a change in the value or the parameters that are passed to the pipe. So knowing that pipes transform data to different formats. Let's say we have like maybe a custom date pipe, right? Um, let's say the date converts the date to a shorter format, right? And then um, and then in the case of specifying using let's say you're using the impure pipes, right? So it means that the impure pipe will be called for every change detection cycle, no matter whether the value or parameter changes, which is not optimal in terms of performance, basically. So it's better for considering performance, it's better to use the pure pipes. And then this is how you can specify the pure pipes in your custom pipes. So I think earlier versions of Angular by default is the key value of the key of the pure pipe is by default set to true. But then now that we all know why we should use pure pipe as opposed to using impure pipes, it's better to use the pure pipes in Angular in our applications. So next up, we have unsubscribing from observables. So Angular does not automatically unsubscribe from observables when you subscribe to them, right? So I think this is one of the areas where Earlier on when I started my career, or when I started using Angular, I actually did not have the knowledge of what the um, drawback of not drawback the implications of using of not subscribing from observables, not until I started learning about it. So Angular does not automatically unsubscribe from observables when you subscribe to them, right? So it's the responsibility um, of us, or we as developers, to manually subscribe from observables to prevent memory leaks. There are different ways you can unsubscribe those, such that you don't have to manually subscribe from it. You just automatically subscribe. Angular just automatically subscribes from the observable for you. So subscribing to an observable actually creates a suspicion that needs to be explicitly unsubscribed when it's no longer needed. So if the suspicion is not unsubscribed, it can lead to memory leaks in the application that you're using the that you're subscribing to basically, and this can actually cause performance issues. So there are actually several ways to unsubscribe from observables. We have the leveraging on the ng or destroy method, Angular lifecycle hook. You can unsubscribe from observables that way. So basically, unsubscribing in the ng on that's the ng sorry ng on destroy sorry unsubscribing in the ng on destroy method. How do you unsubscribe? Is you implement the ng on destroy method in the components, and then unsubscribe from all subscriptions in the method. Another method, or another way you can unsubscribe from observables, is to um use the take until operator. So using the take until operator, you can use this to create a notifier observable that emits a value to signal the component to unsubscribe from all subscriptions. As you can see on your screen, we have an example where we are using the ng on destroy method to unsubscribe from a previous subscription. Again, there are other better ways to do this, but this just shows how you can leverage on the ng on destroy lifecycle hook to unsubscribe from observables. Another way is use the async pipe. So use the async pipe in the template to subscribe to an observables. The async pipe will automatically unsubscribe from the observable when the component is destroyed. So in general, it is the best practice to always unsubscribe from observables when they are no longer needed, to prevent memory leaks and ensure optimal performance. So as you can see on the screen, we have um, we have looking at the example we have. So basically, we call the interval to emit values to the interval of one. So sorry, to emit values at the interval of 1 second, right? So we subscribe to it to receive the emitted value. Our function callback will log the emitted value to the browser console. Now, if the app component is destroyed, maybe by navigating away from the component or using the destroy method, we'll still be seeing the console log on the browser. This is because the app component has been destroyed, but the subscription still lives on and it hasn't been cancelled. So if a subscription is not closed, the function callback attached to it will be continuously called, so which poses a huge memory leak and performance issues. Right, so it's best and right to unsubscribe from um to unsubscribe from every subscriptions we have basically. So moving on, we have the another way we can unsubscribe from observables is to use the you can use decorator to automate unsubscription, right? So you can leverage on the usefulness of decorators in our Angular projects to help us add the undestroy method in our components and unsubscribe from all subscriptions in our component automatically. Right. So next technique is using the TrackBy option. So basically, the TrackBy option in Angular is used in ng for loops to improve the performance and efficiency of rendering the DOM elements. So it's also a way to tell Angular how to identify each item in the list being iterated over, right? So that Angular can track which item have been added, removed, or moved in the list when when changes occur. So when we build, maybe we have an enterprise application, right? We have an array or list of items, right? Leveraging on the track by option can enhance performance in our application when in our application when we use Angular. right? So basically, without the track by option, there are two examples that code snippets I have on the screen. One I'm using, there's no track by option. One has a track by option on the list, right? So basically, without the track by option, Angular will use the default tracking algorithm, which is to compare the entire object reference to each element in the list, right? This can lead to unnecessary rendering of the entire list, even when even only one item has changed, right? And this is actually very inefficient and can affect the performance of the application. So by providing a track by function, you can tell Angular to track each item in the list based on a specific property or identifier, based on a specific property or identifier. Um, Rather than the object reference, basically. So there's a code snippet on the screen that typically shows us how to implement that, giving a list of items. And so this allows Angular to only update the DOM elements that have changed rather than rendering the entire list basically. So an example of how to use this is the track by. So we created the track by ID, right? The track by ID function is used to track each item in the list by its ID property, right? This will tell Angular to efficiently update the DOM elements when changes occur in the list. So to use the track by option in the HTML template, we would have this as would implement as shown on the screen, right? So you would modify the ng loop as seen on the screen. So by providing the track by function for the ng4 directive, Angular will use it to track the items in the list and then efficiently update the DOM elements when changes occur. This can significantly improve performance of your application, especially when working with large lists or tables. So using the track by option for for loops in Angular is efficiently better off. So next up is using web workers, right? Um, web workers web workers can improve the performance of an Angular application by enabling use of multi-threading. So web workers are a browser API that allows running scripts in the background trends separate from the main trend of the web page. Right? So this means that heavy computation or long running tasks can be performed in the background without affecting the interface when you use web workers. So in Angular application, web workers can be used to offload computational intensive tasks, such as maybe you, you have a large intensive, you are processing intensive data, right? Image manipulation or other heavy calculation from the main UI thread, right? So by doing so, web workers can improve the application's overall performance and user experience to a large extent. So there are actually like a few so I'm going to go over a few ways web workers can improve the performance of an Angular application. So it will actually improve the responsiveness, right? How it does this is it will offload heavy computation to web workers. The main UI trend can remain responsive to user inputs, improving the overall user experience. And then another way Angular improves uses web workers to improve performances, faster load times. Web workers can be used to load data, right, can be used to load data and perform calculations in the background while the user loads while the user interface loads, right, reducing the time it takes to load and render the page. This can actually go a long way in significantly improving the performance of your application. There's also parallel processing, right? And there's also benefit of better resource utilization. By using web workers, the application can better utilize the resource of modern multi-core CPUs, resulting in faster processing times and improved performance. So in Angular, web workers can be created using the Worker API. That is the Angular Worker App module and Worker Platform Worker App. I think can also be used to simplify the process of creating and using web workers. I'm also going to show like just a foundational way of adding or setting up web workers in application. Just a scratch, surface scratch though, but the I added links to resources on how to set up web workers in our application. So basically, by using web workers in our Angular application, developers can create more performance and responsive applications that deliver a better user experience. Angular CLI does not support running itself in a web worker, so you can add web worker to an existing project using the Angular CLI ng generate command, and then you can add a web worker anywhere in your application. For example, let's say you want to. So I have two code snippets on the screen. One is when you're adding it to an existing project. Another is when you're adding it to we're adding a web worker to the root component, right? Running the different commands basically. So that in summary is the benefits of how to use or why you should use web worker in building for performance optimization in your Angular apps. So next up is lazy loading, right? Um, So next concept is lazy loading in Angular. So the enterprise applications built using Angular contains many feature modules, right? So as we keep improving, increasing, getting user feedback on our applications and adding different features, right? Application will keep getting larger. Application will keep getting larger, um, and the modules, the bundle size will keep increasing. All these modules are not required to be loaded at once by are not actually necessarily required to be loaded at once, right, by the client. So with large enterprise applications, the size of the application would significantly increase with time and also increases the bundle size. So once the bundle size increases, the performance goes down exponentially, basically. So one way you can sort of cut that down is lazy loading. There are other different mechanism or approaches for you to actually reduce bundle sizes. So basically, Angular apps can have large bundle sizes due to inclusion of maybe third-party libraries as well as the size of the application code itself, right? There are actually few tips to decrease the bundle size in Angular apps, which is the lazy loading. And then there's also tree shaking, there is code splitting, and then there is actually better off to use smaller versions of third-party libraries. So by following the leveraging on lazy loading mechanism in Angular, right, you can significantly reduce the bundle size of your Angular app and improve its performance. Um, Next up is the do not do not include computation in your template files. So Angular provides there are like three major building blocks in Angular. You have the service, you have the components, you have the modules. Modules are currently optional in the latest versions of Angular, right? So remember we talked about the AoT compilation, right? And then we looked at the three phases of how your code is being compiled. So if you have if you have computations in your template files, it's going to actually affect the performance of your Angular application. So it's better off not to do that. Okay. So lastly, we're going to look at sorry. Before I close or summarize, in summary, another question one would ask is why is it essential? Why is it essential to actually build for performance? Whether you're using Angular or um, you're using React, or you're using Vue, or whatever technology you're using, why is it um, essential to build for performance, right? The performance and load time play an essential role in any business, right? And then the using several concepts that we've looked at or considered can help us in building for performance. And then when we do this, we increase conversion rates, customers are happy, and then our business grows, right? But it's also very essential that before using any of these techniques, first understand the reason why your application is lagging, basically. So in summary, We looked at using AoT compilation for performance optimization, um, using lazy loading, using web workers, or subscribing from observables, and then also other concepts to optimize Angular applications. So these are links to resources that you can maybe have further research on, um, and then learn more concepts or leverage on Angular docs to improve your knowledge on various concepts. Um, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sarah. That was a wonderful session.
Thank you, Achana. So I don't know if there are any questions.
Yeah, let's just wait a couple of minutes. But yeah, thank you so much again, Sarah, for giving such a wonderful session. And I hope more folks use Angular after this.
Yeah, thank you, Achana. Thank you to the team for having me. Okay, so while we wait for questions for um next while we wait for questions or comments, so just to summarize the different concepts. So we looked at the eight concepts of optimizing for performance. There are other more concepts or techniques that you can leverage on that Angular provides under the hood. And they are very much available on Angular docs, so you can look at them and get more information on them and learn more. Yeah, Shabana. Yes, I also leverage on this to learn. There are some things that are not necessarily new, but I actually do not have the knowledge as to okay, this is what this does. This is what this does. Oh yeah, nice. Yeah, so good one, Shabana. Yes, sure, scales.
I think we just have a single question of whether you can access the slides. I think yes, you will get the content in a few days or maybe a few weeks as soon as the video is uploaded to YouTube. But yes, you'll get access to the content as well.
Okay.
There are some questions in the Q&A section. Let me see if I can navigate to it.
Oh, um, okay.
So, Sarah, we have a question here. What is the future
Mhm.
of optimization for you? There is a technique in quantum computing called variational quantum uh, eigensolver, VQE. Have you come across it?
Sorry, can you take that again?
Yeah, sure. I can. So it says, what is the future of optimization for you? There's a technique in quantum computing called variational quantum eigensolver, VQE. Have you come across it?
Oh no. That's sort of strange. But basically, the techniques we looked at for performance optimization was actually what somewhat tied to Angular as a framework, right? So, um, sort of outlining different performance optimization that Angular provides. But I think what the attendee mentioned is somewhat related to um, I think you mentioned computing also. It's not related to. um, machine learning. Um, okay, I think there's a question. Any resources you could recommend to learn more about optimizing Angular concept? Yes. So on my slides, there are links to resources to different um, more talks or articles on performance optimization using Angular. Yes. Another question is, I don't know, Ashana, can you see the questions?
Yeah, it says, why would you use JOT over AOT? What are the limitations of AOT?
So AOT is just basically ahead of time. Sorry, JIT is JIT is just in time, while AOT is ahead of time. So I think that there are more benefits using AOT than using JIT. Basically, sorry, there are more benefits as to limitations though. So I am more grounded on the benefits than the limitations. So the limitations could just be, I think one of the limitations could just be um, possibly the going through the code analysis phase. So that could require more compilation time because he has to sort of compute going through those three phases, right? So, but in overall, it's like it offers more benefits than drawbacks, basically using the GOT compilation.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sarah. And yeah, we will go ahead and wrap up the session now. So, yeah, thank you so much for everyone who attended today. And I hope you enjoyed it. Sarah was a wonderful speaker. And yeah, make sure to connect with her on LinkedIn or, to stay connected and know more about Angular. And yeah, Sarah, if you have any, last words or final words here, you can go ahead and, let the crowd know that as well.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Achana. Sorry, I hope I'm pronouncing your name very well. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you for the session talking about performance optimization using Angular. A few words would be, I'm looking forward to enjoying the conference and learning more from other speakers and networking with everybody. You can reach out to me on my social media handles on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on Medium. I'm very open to answer further questions. And thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for attending.
Bye.